What's going on, Aces? Welcome back to the channel. Another one of my favorite films that Della Reese was a part of is A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. It stars Martin Lawrence and Lynn Whitfield. So Della Reese plays Martin Lawrence's mom. His name is Darnell Wright in the film, and he is a lover of the ladies. Okay, so he's the co-owner of a nightclub called Chocolate City, and this cast is star-studded as well, right? Della Reese is, she's in movies where the cast is filled with stars. So we have, Regina King, we have Bobby Brown. You know, I just I love this movie. And the soundtrack was fire too, right? H Town did an amazing job with the cover of A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. And so Brandi Webb is this, real estate mogul. She's a boss, right? She has money. And Darnell sees her walk into his club, Chocolate City, in DC, and he's just mesmerized, right? He's just taken. And she comes, really quickly just to see what the club is about because it was opening night, and then she leaves. And he runs out, rushes after her, and he's like, "Oh, Miss Lady, Miss Lady." He said that a million times. And he drops in her limo, in the window of her limo. He's like, "Will you come back, VIP?" She's like, "No, it's cool. I don't think so." He's like, "No, no, no. I'm co-owner." And he drops a VIP pass into her window. So then he goes out of his way to book an appointment for this, mansion that he can't afford, but he can afford what's a little statue, right? This little glass figurine, Lalique, right? So it's really rare, it's really expensive. And basically, he's just love bombing her, right? So of course I didn't know that as a kid, but now again with Harlem Nights, looking back on it, you grow, you evolve, you mature. And looking back on this, Darnell is, yeah, he's a mess. Like Della told him at the end, you better thank the Lord that you're still alive because he was a mess throughout this whole movie. And I get that, like that's the whole theme, the premise of the movie. Martin Lawrence's character is, a reformed, just a reformed. I'm trying to think of a word. I don't want to say like a F boy, but a womanizer, And anyway, going back to when he meets Brandi, he's just, sending her champagne. He's, really trying to gain her interest. And he gives her the Lalique statue. Then he shows up at her job, and I'm like, okay. And she has him thrown out, and he's like, "Oh, like what's going on?" He's, trying to walk through the door. She calls security, which I don't blame her. And he's like, "Well, why did you have to take it there?" She's like, "Because you brought it here." Like, you don't mess with people's livelihoods. Not to mention, I think it was a bet, wasn't it, that he had with Bobby Brown, his best friend. So they did all that over a bet. You know what I mean? So yeah, Darnell was a piece of work, man. But anyway, he ends up wearing her down. She lets her guard down, and they, start going horseback riding. He takes her to go get some fried fish. They're dating, right? And so she invites him to her house, which is a beautiful mansion. Oh no, they're not in DC. I'm sorry, because it was the Pacific Coast Highway. So they're in Malibu, right? Chocolate City is what I think of when I think of DC. That's Washington DC's nickname. But anyway, Yeah, so she invites him to a beautiful mansion. She has the infinity tub with the blue indigo, lighting and everything. She's paid. And so you know, she asks him if he loves her. And she's wiping her tears, and it's all whatever. Um Romantic, and the music's playing, the candles are lit, soft lighting. She's like, "Do you love me?" And he's like, "I love you." And so, they go upstairs, and then she she admits to him that she had to take care of her ex-husband because she caught him in bed with a blonde, so she had to handle the situation herself. And so he's like, oh my gosh, like you could just tell his whole demeanor changes. So anyway, that's when he just starts to ghost her, right? I'm telling you, this movie is ahead of its time, but this came out in 1996, April of 1996. But he ghosts her, and then he starts to pursue Mia, who has come home from the military. And that's his, old childhood crush. And all the while, Brandi is trying to track him now. So now she's pursuing him. And she rolls up on him, and he's talking to the older partner, Smitty, who's married. And he's trying to give him advice not to be a womanizer, but Brandi rolls up and, in her limo, and he, gets in the limo with them, and they go shopping, and she buys him all these tailor-made suits. And she tells him it's her birthday. And he's like, "When did it become your birthday?" And she's like, "All day." So she says to come to, my house, and I have a birthday cake, whatever. So he doesn't show up. And that's when the shenanigans begin. So she takes the cake, puts a blade through it, drops it off at his house. Then she shows up, burns breakfast, and she shows up, at his mom's house, puts a brick through his car, and that's when Della Reese comes out, and she's like, I've lived here my whole life, Darnell." She's like, "No, you don't mess with the wrong one." Brandy's like, "Hi, Mom, I wanted to meet you." She's like, "Watch out for your son." She pulls off. But Brandi is a piece of work. She puts herself in the hospital and tries and frames Darnell. And then, they all end up at Brandi's mansion in Malibu. And Mia, she gets there. She's trying to save Darnell. And she's like, "You are crazy." She's like, "Darnell, I'm going to, handle your chicken head like I handled the blonde or whatever, my ex-husband." And they end up, having a three-way tug of war. They crash, fall out of her bedroom window and fall into the pool. And the last scene is him, being in the hospital. And he's like, "When I open my eyes, Mia was still by my side." And Della Reese is like, "You better be happy that the Lord, showed you grace and mercy, and your bonehead is still alive." And Darnell saying, it takes sometimes, a good butt whooping to really open your eyes to his ways. But so he's a reformed, womanizer. But yeah, man, this movie and the soundtrack was just back in that golden 90s era where, R&B was just top of the charts, and there was so many like black sitcoms, films. I think it really was. It was dubbed. I've heard a lot of people on Twitter say that it was like the golden era of television, and I believe that it was really cool. Um, the 90s was a special time. I was a kid. I was like real little back then, but it was still it was still a wonderful time. So anyway, y'all drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will see you in the next video. Take care, Aces. Bye.